About 2 years ago, I embarked on my journey to learn constantly, to learn new skills, and just improve myself as a whole. And I wanted to start a skill, something that I could do, something that I would become proficient in, and that was 3D modeling. I embarked on learning 3D modeling and to become a professional at it. But what I realized across my journey of learning 3D modeling was a stark realization. I kept on watching tutorials and they just seemed to not cut it. I would watch tutorials of people create crowns of art, but when I would replicate it, I always failed. So why was tutorials, watching videos, not helping me? Why was it that every time I watched a tutorial and I tried to actually create something afterwards, I would have a blank mind. I would know nothing after hours of watching content. Then I realized that watching is not learning. Consuming is not learning. Doing is learning. When I actually started to create projects, I told myself, let's start creating some projects. Let's actually create something. I would look at objects around my house and 3D model them. I would create iPhone stands. I would just focus on creating. And across that period, I learned more about Blender, more about 3D modeling in that shorter period of time than I did across a whole year of just watching and replicating tutorials. So, why is doing better than consuming? Well, firstly, you actually learn on the job. You learn what you have to create while you are creating. When you are watching tutorials, you will realize that a lot of the things that they put out there, or a lot of the things that you're just watching or reading about, are not useful to you. But the moment that you create, you'll actually find out specific tools that are useful to you. So, a huge aspect of doing is identifying what is actually useful to you and what isn't. Then you just learn what's useful to you. And secondly, learning for the sake of learning is not useful to your mind. Your mind doesn't want to just learn, it wants to link, it wants to identify why you are learning. And creating project just does that. If you're just consuming content online, your brain will forget them in an instant because there is no link, there's no reason as to why you're learning. But when you create content, when you create just in general, your brain identifies that this is useful to remember because later on we are going to have to apply it. So, what can you do to actually start creating? What are some overlying principles that you can apply right now? Well, the good thing is that it's very simple. You first want to have an outline, a vision as to what you are trying to learn and why you're trying to learn it. For me, for example, it was 3D modeling. I wanted to learn 3D modeling so that I can have a skill that is useful to any area in the workplace, in even with starting a business, or just in general. It'll be a fun skill to know and just to show things to other people what I created, some piece of art. You then want to break down that vision into smaller goals. 1 to 3 month goals, quarterly goals, and ultimately have a project. If your goal, for example, is to learn 3D modeling, you want to become a 3D modeler, and your goal in the next 3 months is to become proficient in the software Blender, in the software or any 3D modeling software, then the project that you would have to do to get there is by creating projects, creating works of art. If your goal is to become proficient in a language in the next 3 months, your project is to speak daily. speak daily, create content in a certain language. It doesn't even have to be a specific model. All it has to do, all you have to do is have a specific goal and an action that you have to replicate each day. So ultimately, it all boils down to this: have a vision that you're trying to work towards, the ultimate goal. Have smaller 1 month to 3 month goals, and then have projects, daily actions that you must do to get to that 3 month goal, and that will ultimately aid in your overall vision. And if you do that daily, if you work on it daily, and an easy example is with coding. If your goal is to become a computer software engineer or a proficient in coding, all you have to do is identify 3 months goals. You want to learn Java proficiently. Then your action is to create Java projects. Understand data structures, algorithms, whatever it may be. All you need to do is create projects. Focus on creating, not consuming.